What is going on? We are 24 hours away from the Jaguars adding a new player to their 2023 roster. I am so excited that, one, we are not just looking at who is going to go in the top 10, who is going to do this, who's going to do that. We have a whole night ahead of us going into tomorrow. Who are the Jaguars going to take at pick 24? That's going to be the basis of what tonight's going to be about in the live stream. But at the same time, I also want to kind of do a little bit of a preview. What do they look like at 56? What do they look like at 88? And they've got a bunch of late round picks. Do they move up? I would love to see them at least try. You know, obviously we're not going to know if they make the calls or anything like that, but I would absolutely love to hear some rumblings that the Jaguars are trying to move up. Maybe they're trying to move back up into the second round, use that pick 88 and one of the two fourth rounders to get back up into the second round. I'd be absolutely all about a move like that. But let's talk about pick 24. Sorry, I'm completely ignoring the breaking news that we just had within the hour. Adam Schefter reporting that defensive tackle Devon Hamilton is a rich man now. Oh man, 3 years, $34.5 million. 23 guaranteed. It's a front-loaded deal. It's like $16 million in year one of the deal. I'm very excited to see Devon Hamilton back. And I think the fact that they are bringing Devon Hamilton back says two things. One, bring back your own. That's been a big thing that they've want to do this offseason. And also, I do think it takes a guy like Brian Brise off the table. I also think it might take a guy like Isaiah Foskey off the table, a guy that's just a bigger guy, kind of a Trayvon Walker build, but could potentially play down with his hand in the dirt instead of being an outside linebacker. I think it takes guys like that out of the question, and ultimately it really does kind of pigeonhole. You look at corner, you look at offensive line. Sorry about that. I just had a mental glitch there. You look at corner, you look at offensive line, and then you also look at the pass rush. I don't think there's anyone going to be available really for them to look at in the pass rush game, but I ultimately do think that it's going to be a cornerback. I'm just looking at the amount of depth that I think is going to be there. Obviously, the big names, I think Joey Porter, Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, all those guys are going to be gone, obviously. But you look at Brian Branch, obviously that's the big, beautiful name that everyone's liking. That's going to be the name that everyone's going to want. That's the name that's getting mocked to the Jaguars a ton. Then you look at, there's a lot of guys. Cam Smith, Deontay Banks, Emmanuel Forbes is a guy that's really been piquing my interest lately. He seems to be just a pick-six machine. You look at Andre Sisco coming out of Syracuse. That was one of the big benefits for his game coming out of the Orange in Syracuse, was that he was just an interception machine. Emmanuel Forbes, interception machine. That has something to say. You know, you look at wide receivers, you want somebody that catches the ball. Pass rushers, you want somebody that gets to the quarterback. Corners, you want somebody that intercepts the ball. Ultimately, if it was Emmanuel Forbes that did have his name called there, I would be all about Emmanuel Forbes. At pick 24, it wouldn't be the attractive pick, but I would absolutely love that pick. Especially, it wouldn't be the pretty pick if a guy like Brian Branch is on the board. That would be a huge shocker to the Jaguar community. But ultimately, O'Cyrus Torrence is another guy. I really, really like O'Cyrus Torrence. You know, there's the big three in football. You get your franchise quarterback. Check. Okay, cool. Now you protect the franchise quarterback. Walker Little is going to be playing right tackle, presumably. You look at Cam Robinson. Is he here in 2024? That's a big question mark. And then you look at the left guard spot. What is going on with left guard? Do you want Tyler Shatley playing left guard again? Are you okay with Ben Barch not getting a big training camp? They've said he's not going to be available probably for the start of training camp. Are you okay with those two guys just battling it out once again for the left guard spot? Or do you look at a guy like O'Cyrus Torrence to be the left guard of the future for this franchise? Or do you look maybe in a later round, the guard out of TCU, I'm forgetting his name right now, but at the same time, if you look at maybe round 2, you decide to go Cam Smith, Brian Branch, Deontay Banks, and then you get the guard out of TCU to plug in at the left guard spot. Ultimately, you have to protect Trevor Lawrence, and that left guard spot is a glaring hole for me. I believe you can ignore the tackle spot in the first 2 rounds this year, but it will be a problem next year unless you find some diamond in the rough in the later rounds of the draft, which they have a ton of. I wouldn't be opposed to any of these two fourth round picks, or the 3 sixth round picks they have. Move back up into the second round, get you a nice tackle in the same way that they had Walker Little, kind of just as a luxury pick. That was almost what that was. They were able to get that secondary, that swing tackle in the second round, who ultimately is paying huge dividends for this Jaguars team. And then you look at guys, if you do really, really want to go and get that tackle in the first round, you look at a guy like Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. Ultimately, 9 pressures out of almost 500 pass blocking snaps for the Sooners last year. Protecting Trevor Lawrence is the thing. Can I justify spending the first round pick when it seems like the Jaguars are in win now mode? That's where I have the big hiccup. Can you take a running back? I kind of lump tackle in with taking a running back, taking a wide receiver. It would be a luxury pick this year because it does not help you win this year. Yes, it would help prolong the health of the franchise, but that would be my hard sticking point. Then you look at a guy like DeJuan Jones, another just massive human being. I talked about it whenever I was talking about pass rushers. You get a giant human being. Well, DeJuan Jones is a massive human being, 6'8". Oh my God, he's just a human being that is a giant wrecking ball. I'm sorry, but he is just a giant of a man. I can't get over the fact that he is just so big. And you almost run the risk of, is he too big? That is a massive question mark for me with DeJuan Jones, and that it would be something that pulls me off. Then you look at the guy out of Tennessee as well. What does he do? Do you bring him in and then just say, hey, it's a competition between Walker Little and for the right tackle spot? What does it look like going forward there? But at the same time, you look at the guard from TCU, you look at Cody Mock, you look at Matthew Bergeron. They have stuff that you can work with that would be a great asset to build this team right now. You look at guys that can play guard today, tomorrow, play a game next week. That is what I want the Jaguars to do. At the end of the day, it is just about making this team as good as it can be. Bringing back Devon Hamilton, restructuring every single person under the sun that it seemed like they could. Oh my God, if you'd have told me they were going to restructure 7 guys that they did, I would have called you crazy. I would have called you a lunatic, because no way in my mind would I have thought that would be something that they did. But ultimately, I'm really liking. I'm going to go back to the cornerbacks for just a second as well. Corey Trice out of Purdue, big body, 6'3", 206. I do think how we talk about Cody Mock or Matthew Bergeron in the second or third rounds, maybe pick 56, maybe pick 58. I am very excited to see what they do at those 2 spots, because what they do at 24 is going to be a very telling thing to what 56 is going to be looking like, in my opinion. Ultimately, if it is not the corner, I feel like it's going to be a pass rusher. That's where I'm at. And if it's the guard type, if it is Torrance, oh man, the doors are about to get blown off this thing. I think the depth is insanely deep at corner, and as well as the pass rushing spot. Both of those spots are just deep, deep, deep. And I think you could look at, pick 88. You could look at pick 56 and really find somebody that you want to be your a starter in the third round. You look at that 2016 draft. You look at Jalen Ramsey, Nick Ngakoue, and Miles Jack. 3 great contributing players right off the bat. That is what this draft has to be. Yes, the 2018 draft you felt like you could take the luxury picks, but then it bit them in the butt because they weren't filling needs that they had. They had the big need at the corner. You could make the easy argument they had the need at quarterback. Blake Bortles wasn't the best. And I feel like the Jaguars are working themselves into a little bit of a pigeonhole like that once again. And it's just, if you don't take players that can help you right away, and you look at maybe a developmental pick right now, you're going to waste the opportunity that you have. You have Trevor Lawrence for probably 1 more year on a cheap deal. And then that's only Trevor Lawrence. What is he going to want? $50 million a year? 50 plus? Okay, cool. Calvin Ridley, Josh Allen. Evan Ingram, all of these guys, those three guys, you could make the argument that Calvin Ridley could potentially command $20 million. Josh Allen is probably going to command $20 million. Evan Ingram probably going to command $13-14 million a year on top of Trevor Lawrence's $50+ million that he could be earning. 2023 is the year the Jaguars can make their playoff push to go get the first Lombardi in franchise history. Go contend for the first one. You can't mess this up. You have to be able to get players that can help you tomorrow and in August. That is bare bones what it can be. You cannot take a luxury pick, in my opinion. That's why I've kind of crossed tackle off, in my opinion. And I could sell myself on the fact that if you take an outside corner and you just have him play nickel, or you have Darius Williams play nickel once again, cool, great. I can sell myself on that. But it would be the tough ask. And then you look at the pass rushing position. The pass rushing position for me is a big one. I've done a ton of work on the pass rushing. Honestly, I'm just calling it the position because I don't know what else to call it. It is just outside linebackers that are rushing. Then you have Trayvon Walker. Does he kick inside? Get after the quarterback. You were one of the worst teams in the NFL at getting to the quarterback. Now, could the argument be made that it was a lot of coverage inefficiencies? Because you look at the pressure numbers, they were like 20 behind the Eagles, but they were like in pressures, but then they were like 35 behind in sacks. Could that be a coverage question? I absolutely think could be, but big question marks for me going into the free agency, or excuse me, into the draft would be, how do they address the pass rush? That is the big, if I had to circle one problem, it would be the pass rush. I just don't think there's going to be value in the first round at the pass rushing position. Yeah, Will McDonald might be there, but none of the big guys are going to be there that I want. Maybe Myles Murphy, but I would have a hard time selling myself on Myles Murphy as well. I just don't. It's just something about him that you watch a player and you just kind of get that ick about him. That's Myles Murphy for me. I'm not trying to discredit the player. I hope he has a great NFL career as long as he's not a Tennessee Titan. But you look at a guy, Isaiah Foskey, Expedition O'Leary, hey, shout out the wife support, and I appreciate Expedition O'Leary. I absolutely think Isaiah Foskey is a guy that's going to be kind of in the mix with Trayvon Walker. You're going to have another very big body that you're going to have playing out at the outside linebacker position. Yes, he could probably be effective. Yes, he's very athletic, but at the same time, you are going to have just the question mark of, would he be better playing with his hand in the dirt? And in 2023, I don't think there's going to be room in the starting rotation unless we just see a catastrophic collapse from Foley Fatukasi, where you have to fill that third down lineman spot. I think you're going to look at talk about the Death Star package that there was in 2022 with Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, DeJuan Smoot, and then Arden Key. Yes, you could potentially run something like that, but at the same time, what happens with Isaiah Foskey when his hand isn't in the dirt and you're just having to have another big body pass rusher? That's another reason I'm off of Foskey. 27 sacks, over 750 pass rushing attempts. The production's there. I am just scared of what it's going to look like when you actually put it into practicality of working him into the Jaguars roster. Ultimately, I think they would be much better off getting just a slightly smaller, athletic outside linebacker, opposed to just trying to fit a square block into a circle hole, which is what it seems like they're trying to do with Trayvon Walker, opposed to a guy like Andre Carter out of Army. I would love, yes, I'm an Army guy, I'm an Army veteran, but at the same time, you look at a guy like Andre Carter, who was very productive for the Black Knights. He's just undersized, and that was because of the fact that he was in the service academy. Let the strength and development team get their hands on him for an offseason, let them bulk him up, and then let's see what they're doing with him. Because I absolutely think that, PFF gave him the comp of Max Crosby, and I absolutely do think that is going to be a huge plus side for him. The fact that he has that comp, that he has those measurables, and that upside. I'm not a huge upside guy, especially early in the draft, but when you talk about 56 and the fact that they have this massive hole at the pass rushing position, at the end of the day, you have to find a way to address that pass rushing problem. And maybe it's not Andre Carter. Maybe it is a guy like Derek Hall, who, if I'm turning in a card at 56 and Derek Hall is available, I am turning in a card that says Derek Hall Auburn on it. I absolutely love him. I think he is just incredibly long. I think he's incredibly athletic, and ultimately he has that experience as the 3-4 outside linebacker, and that is where I would go at 56 ultimately. Now, you look at pick 88. And for me, it's just to throw it up in the air. Whatever one they haven't addressed, you have to find a way to address it. I hopefully they get value at that pick. I'm not saying rush pick. I'm not saying if you have a guy that has a 5th round grade on him, take him at 88. But at the same time, if you really don't see the board falling where you will have a good value pick for a player at 88 for the position that you haven't addressed, whether it be corner, pass rush, or offensive line, wherever it might be at 88, who cares? Send a 4th round pick and 2 of the 6th, and go jump up into, or I don't, it probably won't even cost that much, but still, take whatever you have at the back end of this draft. You have 2 4s, 3 6s, and a 7. Somebody's going to want those. Move on up. Find a spot and go get a guy that you can absolutely work with, whether it be Cody Mock, and you develop him into somebody that can be a franchise benefactor later in his career, just in the same way that Walker Little is being that way for the Jacksonville Jaguars now at the later end of his career. Was it a luxury pick when he was taken? Yes. Is he paying massive dividends now that we have him? 100%. Could you imagine the conversation we would be having if we did not have Walker Little? If we were looking at what we had left and we were just saying, oh my God, what are we going to do with the right tackle position because we have nothing? Are we going to have to, we would be getting nothing but right tackle, mock to the Jaguars if we did not have Walker Little, if we didn't have somebody that could easily fill into that role. And honestly, Walker Little's a great, that's going to be a great content farm for me throughout this season and potentially the next season, what happens with Walker Little. But that is a conversation for a different day, because ultimately you're looking at a defensive line that I'm praying to the high heavens that they get something out of the unit that they have going out of 2022 minus Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot. If he comes back, great. But you're going to have to sign somebody, hopefully, if there's money left after front-loading the DeJuan Smoot contract. The numbers aren't completely out on that yet. And then also whoever they decide to go get in the draft, because they're going to have to address it in one way or another. I absolutely do think that it's going to come down to a corner, or it's going to come down to Osiris Torrance. I don't see them taking a tackle in the first round. I don't see them taking the Anton Harris out of Oklahoma. I don't see DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State. Yes, it would be a great thing to have, but at the same time, luxury picks are not going to cut it when you were chasing a Lombardi, when you were this tight against the cap with the projection of Devon Hamilton's new contract extension. What is it going to look like for that offensive line? That is a massive question mark. And then, I hate to say it, but how are you going to stop Travis Kelce? The road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City, and it's going to go through Kansas City until it no longer goes through Kansas City. And that's just the facts of the matter. And he is a problem that the Jaguars are going to have to deal with, and is a problem the Jaguars dealt with twice last year, and there was zero answer for it. So you look at a guy like Corey Trice out of Purdue later in the draft. What does he look like? He could fill it well into the nickel. Initially when he got to Purdue, he was a linebacker. They kick him out to corner. He has that experience playing close to the line, playing in that nickel. And I do think that is somewhere where they might look and go, this is going to be a guy I can absolutely use in this draft. Ultimately, Darius Rush is another guy. I love him. You need production. That is what you need. And at the end of the day, 18 combined picks and pass breakups on 72 pass targets throughout his career. On top of the 4.36 speed, I love it. I'm all about it. Give me more of that. Give me the production. Give me production. Because intangibles and traits can only take you so far whenever you're looking at potential Super Bowl pushes. Now, hey, Christopher France, what's going on, man? Hey, thank you for popping into the live, man. I appreciate it. I'm flirting with going live a little bit more, so if you'd like to see me live more, drop a comment. I'd appreciate it. Whether you're watching this on the VOD or you're here live right now, I'd absolutely love to hear the feedback. We're kind of just chatting things up right now about what's going to go on with pick 24, pick 56, pick 88 even. I believe they're probably not even going to take pick 58. They're probably going to use a couple of the later picks, move back up into the second, and grab another playmaker. But trade up or trade down, what do I think? I think they're going to probably stay put at 24, unless I watched Jordan DeLugo's today, his what would I do mock, and he had the Jaguars taking 56, taking 88, and I believe a couple other picks, moving back up into the first round, and then taking Osiris Torrance after taking Brian Branch. And that would be an incredible scenario for the Jaguars to have happen. But at the end of the day, I don't see that happening. I would love to see that happen, but when you look at what is going to be happening on that board, I think it's going to be a mad frenzy to get O'Cyrus Torrence once we get past probably like 22. I think they're going to see him, and I think they're going to absolutely be jumping. Teams are going to be jumping over themselves trying to get to him. No sacks allowed the entire time he was at Florida. Yes, he followed Billy Napier from a smaller school, but when the competition rose, there was no falter in his game. Ultimately, that is what I think is the big exclamation point on O'Cyrus Torrence. The competition increased, and so did his play. He was totally fine going up against SEC competition, against the lower competition. And then you look at a guy like Brian Branch, you're moving positions, and yes, he has the traits to move to that position, but like I was just talking about, is that what you want to have happen there? Do you want to have a guy that's changing positions just off of traits and saying, hey, this could be a guy that we really would like to play this position, but we really don't like him at that position that he played his entire time at? It freaks me out with no prior experience seeing it happen. That's why I'm very big on Trice from Purdue. He played linebacker, they move him to the corner position, and he was still very, very productive. That is what I think this team needs. You look at O'Cyrus Torrence being that great pass blocker. You look at Emmanuel Forbes, the production, the 6 pick sixes in his career. And then you also look at, I'm blanking on his name, Derek Hall, who has the experience to play in the outside linebacker position. That is exactly where I think this team should go. If I had my dream scenario, day 1 to day 2, I am absolutely taking O'Cyrus Torrence. I think with the first pick in the first round, pick 24, I'm turning in a card with O'Cyrus Torrence name on it. Give me O'Cyrus Torrence. Protect Trevor Lawrence for the future. Pick 56, if it's available, Derek Hall all day long. If it's not, I'm absolutely looking to add one of the best pass rushers on the board. And then for pick 88, I don't think they're going to use it. I absolutely think they're going to use pick 88 to move back up into the second round. Might be a bit of a reach on a guy like Corey Trice from Purdue, but at the same time, you're getting the production out of him. And that is something that I think is so important. I keep saying the word production because that is what this team needs. They don't need intangibles. They don't need traits. They have plenty of those. They need production. That is what they need. Let me know. What do you guys think? Where do they go with pick 24, pick 56? Who was on your wish list? What's your dream scenario going into the first round? Into day 2, pick 1 and 2. What do you guys think? I would absolutely love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Christopher, I vote O-line first. That's where it's at. You have to protect the franchise. I talked about it earlier in the stream. The big 3 in football. Get the franchise quarterback, protect the franchise quarterback, harass other teams' franchise quarterbacks. That is the formula right there for how to be a successful franchise in the NFL. Guess what the Eagles just did? They built the offensive line. They got the franchise quarterback, and then they led the league in sacks. Call me crazy. They just hit the big 3, and they were considered one of the more dominant football teams in the NFL. And they went toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at the Chiefs. They had a very formidable pass rush. They went out and added more. George Karlaftis, Frank Clark, Chris Jones. They had they had an adequate offensive line, and then they had the demigod that is Patrick Mahomes. That can make up for a lot. But once again, the big 3. They had the quarterback. They found ways to protect him, and then they found ways to harass other quarterbacks. We're not going to talk about the Chad Henne drive. That's not a franchise quarterback moment. That was just, and that's my perfect example for the fact that they need to address the defense early and often in this because it only got worse. It did. As bad as Shaq Griffin is, it was a depth piece leaving. Arden Key is 4.5 sacks. Yeah, he's gone. DeJuan Smoot with his 6.5 sacks. He's not back yet. So that's a third of the sacks that they had gone, and then one of the 3 starting rotation corners that they had. It's a big throw it up in the air and see what you get. But at the end of the day, they need to leave day 1 and 2 with a offensive lineman, with a corner, and then with pass rush help. I truly don't think the order matters, but I would absolutely love to see O'Cyrus Torrence wearing the teal and black after the first night of the draft at pick 24. ultimately, that's just what I had for tonight. I wanted to pop on, do a quick little live stream. Here we're at 25 minutes. I want to thank everyone for coming in. I've had some viewers fluctuating, but hey, I appreciate it. Christopher, thank you so much for the comments, man. I always love whenever I get to interact with you. And hey, if you weren't commenting in this video or in the live, I'd love to have the conversation with you down below in the comment section, in the VOD, later tomorrow, maybe even after. Maybe we can revisit this after the draft is complete. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on my takes, and I'd love to give my thoughts on yours as well. Oh, we got one more for Christopher. I'll get this in right before I end it. I'd rather have protection for Trevor Lawrence and weapons for him to throw to. Defense second. I feel like today's era of football is offense wins Super Bowls, not defense. Yeah, that's it. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. That they can throw the ball around. They were able to get rid of, arguably a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes put up damn near career numbers for Kansas City last year. It's awesome. I'm very excited for what the Jaguars are going to be rolling out with Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence. And then, I didn't even get to Zay Jones, and then whoever else they might add. Maybe they tilt the world on their head in the first round. They go Dalton Kincaid or Meyer. But at the end of the day, it's all who's who and what ifs until the card gets announced by Roger Goodell. But I want to thank you guys so much for coming into the live. I really do appreciate it. I hope to be doing more of these soon as the season approaches and as the off season progresses, doing a little bit more prediction stuff and everything like that, getting your takes on it live. I love interacting with you guys. Thank you so much for coming into the Fan Cave, hanging out with